Nothing can stop me, I'm all the way up. All the way up. I'm all the way up. I'm all the way up.
What's up and happy mental push up Monday, baby? We here. So the title of today's message is how to coach yourself up in a moment. And when I'm talking about in a moment, I'm talking about when you are in your feelings, man. When you deep in them things. And so, first, let me say again, feelings are wonderful because they're great data to tell us what's really going on inside of here. Like what's going on in our head, our heart, soul, all of that stuff. But what I'm speaking of, when I'm talking about being deep in your feelings, I'm talking about that moment when life smacks you in the mouth and it's all you see is the problems. Like all you see is the problems. And then, sometimes for me when I get in my feelings, because this week I was in it. And that's why I'm talking about this, because I was in my feelings. I was deep in them things. Like I couldn't even sleep for a couple nights. I was deep in my feelings. And so, my Sybil, that's what I like to call her. She's my mean girl. She likes to go on the deep end. And she likes to go to the worst case scenario. I don't know if you ever had those, where it's just like something will happen, like life will happen. And usually that's why we freak out, because it's like we think about the worst thing that could happen. And so, which leads to point one. When we get in those moments to coach ourselves up, we have to ask ourselves questions instead of making assumptions. And I would even say ask questions without judgment. Because really when we're asking these questions to ourselves, even sometimes to other people, we're asking just to get data, to get information, for us to figure out what we need to do, right? And so, I like to think about it as, like, here's a prime example. In relationships, half of the time, the reason that we argue with our significant others is because we're making assumptions. We're saying, well, you did this because of that. Like me and my honey bunny, sometimes we have a few little disagreements, but I realize on my end, sometimes sometimes what I do is I assume like the worst. I assume somebody's intention. I assume all these things. Like the other day, like we even had a conversation, like I had an assumption about something that I thought and I was feeling a little resentful. And I realized once I asked the question, it wasn't even what I thought. Like I'm sitting over here getting all riled up about something that's not even true, right? And so, but the only way that I could have got that information is I ask questions. And so, even I think more importantly to ourselves though, we have to ask ourselves questions to gather data. Like what's really going on here for me? Like what am I feeling? And I realized what I was feeling was I was freaking afraid. I had fear. Thinking about the worst possible scenario. Well, what if this happens? Or what if that happens? And it's things that they could. But at the end of the day, like I had to ask myself questions so I could figure out what do I need to do? Like, how do I need to handle this? Which, of course, step 2, action. Action, baby. Action cures fear. When you in your feelings, and usually when we're in our feelings, it's some type of need that we need to get addressed within ourselves, or something that we are wanting or needing, and that's usually why we're freaking out. And usually when I'm afraid, it's like I'm inside, I'm a scared little girl, because I'm afraid because I'm thinking about the worst case scenario and things like that. But that, as I said in step 1, by asking questions, we get data to inform our next move, right? And so for me, I realized that by getting smacked in the mouth and being afraid, I said, okay, baby, you got to get in here and you got to grind even harder, because now, like, you literally it's a wake up call for you to figure out what is your next move. What are you going to do? Like, what is your life goal? Are you living in your purpose? And so it really forced me to reassess just my life in general. Like, I'm looking at everything now. And so it wasn't necessarily a bad thing. The fear kind of woke me up in a sense. And so now I've got to be more intentional about what my next move is. What steps am I going to make now? Now that I have this information, what am I going to do? As always, what are we going to do? And so, yes, take action, because at least, and this is what I think about sometimes, is sometimes, like, even if we're scared or we don't know what's going on, if we're taking action in the meantime, it can make things a little bit better. Like, I know I know when I was an athlete, and like when I was in a slump, I'm not making no jumpers, I ain't scoring no points like I want to, and I'm just, it's uncomfortable, right? But if I'm going to the gym every day and I'm working on my jump shot, I'm working on my handles, I'm, doing all those things to improve my game, to get back on track, or doing what I gotta do, it's not that bad to me, because it's like, I may be afraid or I may be uncomfortable, but at least I'm taking steps to start putting myself in a better situation. Because the jump shot, it's got to hit eventually. I'm working. I'm doing what I got to do. So it just start taking action, right? And so I then think lastly, I think we have to tell ourselves is that we're going to be okay. We are going to be absolutely fine. So when we get deep in the wound, we get in our feelings, we feeling away, and it's just like, my world is collapsing. We'll survive. Check your heartbeat. Say, I'm still breathing. I'm going to be just fine. This is a rough moment, and I may feel angry, I may feel sad, whatever it is that you're feeling, you're going to be fine. And this guy that I listen to, Dr. Glover, when I have my moments, because, we're human, we're going to have our moments. He, one of the quotes he says is, you have to say to yourself, whatever it is, I'll handle it. I'll get through it. It may be uncomfortable, it may be challenging, but guess what? We're good through it. And so tell yourself, I'll handle it. Whatever shows up for me, I will handle it. We've handled it thus far. Think about the most challenging things that you've experienced in your life. All the things that have been tough for you, you handle it. You're still here. You're still alive. We're going to be fine. We will all be okay. Whatever shows up for us in life, we're going to be absolutely fine. We'll make it through. So, those are my tidbits, words of wisdom about coaching yourself up when you're in your feelings. And we're going to have those moments because we are human. But the main thing is to be able to coach yourself up out of it and start making moves in the process. Because sometimes when we so deep in our feelings, I don't know about you, but when I'm so deep in my feelings, like, I'm immobile. I can't move. And so, again, just to sum up everything, number one, ask yourself questions and try not to make assumptions. So when you get those assumptions, just ask a question. Powerful questions to yourself and even sometimes to other people to gather information. Step number 2, action. Action cures fear. So we want to take step 1 to get data to inform our next move, right? What is it? What is my next move? Now that I have this information, what am I going to do for myself? How am I going to take care of me and do what I need to do, right? And then lastly, and I just literally just forgot my last thought that quick. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. We're going to be okay. Like, whatever happens, we'll handle it. Whatever shows up in life, we're going to handle it. You have a question? Check your pulse, your breathing. We're going to make it through it. We'll be just fine. So, when you get in here this week and you see that challenge and it shows up, you'll handle it. You will be absolutely fine. Just coach yourself up out of your feelings. But it's the Dorky Jock signing off, baby. And I'm out.
Find table space to say your social grace.